YouTube, we are building yet another PC after finishing this one literally early this morning. What, 2, 3 in the morning? This is the Z18 version 2.0 build. This was the Z18 version 1.0 build, but we removed this and we're placing this into a true micro ATX case. This is a micro ATX board, and this case, while it now has an ITX board, was capable of housing a micro ATX board like literally to the T. So as you guys can see right here, I like to always lay out the parts that I'm going to use. If you did not see my build for this, don't worry. I will be including a replay of how I got here as far as the installation of the RAM chip, the M.2, and the CPU. But while we're here, let's discuss the parts that we're going to use in this build. So as far as CPU for this build, we're going with the trusted 9800 X3D. Of course, the best gaming CPU on the market right now. As far as memory chips go, RAM, we have some G.Skill. This is the Ripjaws M5. AMD Expo, this is 6000 with a CL26, some super fast memory from G.Skills. That's already placed in here. And then as far as the cooler goes, we have the NZXT Kraken Elite. This is a 240mm. Now for the case that we're building in, with the orientation of how you choose to put the power supply, you can have a larger or up to a 360mm, but we will not be using an orientation to allow for that, which means we're gonna stick to 240mm. Something that is new to this build are these fans. These are Lian's wireless fans. You heard me correct. These are wireless fans that have a transmitter over what, 2.4 gigahertz, and you can control the RGB. They have versions that have the LCD. I did not opt in for those. They're quite pricey, and plus we have an LCD already on our cooler. Now as far as graphics card goes, for this build we will be using the AMD 9070 XT. So as far as power goes, we will be using the ROG Loki 850 watt Platinum. We attempted to use this in 1.0, it did not work, and the case that we are using now is so much more spacious that everything's gonna work properly. And speaking of the case, let's get into the case. We have a case from Lian. This is the A3. Actually excited about this case, and it's on the more value driven side at $69.99, which is a W. Yeah, this is micro ATX right here for sure. But it's spacious and way easier to build inside of. Okay, so as you guys can see, this is a fully vented micro ATX case, but there is an option for this. A mod, shall we say, as far as this side panel goes, and that is tempered glass, you guys. So the left side glass panel, and we're able to replace this vented panel for a tempered glass panel. And, you know, we'll see how temps go with and without the glass panel. Got some release screws right here, which are on there very tight. Oh, we got it. Haha, gotta give props to Lian for the accessory box. I love cases that include this, and every time I see it, I'm gonna celebrate it because we need it in every case. My handy PC building tools, these two right here, in addition to the electric Hoto screwdriver, which is even more for convenience, but literally these two right here, baby. I guess the bottom dust cover is magnetic. Yeah. So this side radiator bracket just comes off via 2 screws. Super simple. Now we have a fully disassembled case. I'll put these screws back in. Okay, so earlier I spoke about the ability to be able to use a 360 millimeter radiator with this, it would be with the use of your PSU, your power supply unit bracket, being placed in a certain position that would allow for that. Because you would obviously need this whole entire upper area for the most part for a 360 millimeter. Now, this moves via some screws. This is very similar to what was on the Z18, and you have different points. Not only can you place this PSU bracket right here in the front, but you can also place it rear facing if you choose to go that route. I think we're doing front facing, if I'm not mistaken. Front mounted right there, running tubes that way. There's also some SSD trays right here on this backside. You get a lot more space to build inside of a micro ATX case, but you lose that compact form factor on your desktop. This is taking up like almost basically the traditional length, but not the height. Okay, so with that being said, I'm about to get my orientation right, and we'll start by placing the motherboard inside of here, and we'll get this build going. This build should be super fast and straight to the point.
Okay, so I'm inserting older footage from when I originally put this motherboard together so you guys can still get the step-by-step. I did not want to exclude this. Ignore the other case. To all my beginning builders, look in the manual. It'll tell you exactly where to place your RAM.
All right, next up, let's get our CPU seated. Oh no, let's do M.2 actually.
So in this build, we're using the Kingston Fury M.2 SSD, and I place it in this slot specifically because if I place it in any other slot, it would affect the X16 PCIe factor of where our GPU goes.
All right, so anytime you're seating a CPU, you just want to be calm, cool, and collected. There is an arrow right here. There's an arrow right there just to help guide you. So anytime you're doing anything like this or dealing with this, make sure your CPU is already seated. That way you eliminate any possibilities of dropping anything, a screw or whatever, onto those CPU pins. All right, so I'm gonna put this foam under, hopefully it reaches it. So that way the contact plate under there doesn't fall out.
So this is me showing you how to prep your motherboard for an AM5 contact frame. Right here is the thermal paste guard, and I'll show you the contact frame next.
Even on the contact frame, you see the arrow. Included screws. Half turn pass resistance. Half turn pass resistance. Half turn, half turn, complete resistance, complete. All right, we are there. But the plus side is we do get a screen on our cooler, which we did not have that on the Arctic, obviously not at $90, but we can monitor our temperatures, and you guys will always get to see them in the shots I get. So this is cool. Cabling. A big cooler. Glad to finally interact and see this in person, but this is really dope. Minimal cables. Now the question is, how will we go about mounting this? Are we gonna go this route? We can probably go this way, run the cable behind it, now we can do our standoffs and everything for the AM5 socket, as you guys can see. All right, so the standoffs have two sides. One's thick, the other one's thinner. I'm pretty sure the thicker one is for this portion. It's for the socket, yep. Let's put on our thermal paste, baby. We got the new Noctua. This cooler does have pre-applied thermal paste, but we will be removing that. I know you, why did you put so much? Because I'm gonna spread that joint out, player. Now, if you're wondering, no, you don't have to do this. The reason why I did it is I already seen a test, and the Noctua, as well as like the MX6, are cooler than the pre-applied NZXT thermal paste. Okay, I'm probably gonna get this cooler in place. All right, got the motherboard properly placed on the standoffs. Time to get it screwed in. Let's see if these screws are labeled though. That's the other test. Oh, they're labeled. Oh, Lian Lee, I love you. I love you, like legit. All right, one thing I'm gonna do early that I've learned from is I'm going to place the CPU power in early. Even though I know this is a larger case, you still have room, but once you put like a radiator in place, it's harder to get to. So it's always nice to go ahead and have that ran ahead of time. The beautiful thing about the Loki is every cable is labeled properly. CPU power, PSU labeled. We'll pre-run this. And there you have it. So once I put my cooler up, I won't have to worry about that being in the way. All right, so next thing we're gonna do is we'll get our radiator in place. Actually, the radiator is probably gonna go in flip this way. Yeah, I think that might be our best bet, low-key. Let's take a peek and see how this is going to look. It's always good to stage. Oh, you know what? I wonder if I can run this cable up and behind without issue. And this is why it's good to plug in cables ahead of time, because you get to discover things like this. I'm gonna go ahead and get my placeholder screws laid in there. All right, this way it's held in place and we can make our decisions afterwards as far as everything else and how we're gonna roll with it. But I think this is good placement. And you guys can probably see that cable is running up and around that heatsink on the back end. All right, now this cooler does have a lot going on cable-wise. So we'll see how this is gonna work out for this, considering the fact that this needs to plug in up here. Oh my gosh, bro. So a big issue here is the fact that this cable, although it's longer, it's just wrapped up in this pre-braided cable, which doesn't give you much length out of it. And this is the cable you want plugged into your CPU fan. That's my one critique I'll give to this design right here is, my goodness, the breakout cabling is so long for such a short or such a small cooler. Oh boy. Things are already getting interesting with this. Even in micro ATX, you will find your hurdles. So I don't know if you guys can see, but you can read this board is clearly labeled. I love that for building, especially for new and even experienced builders. Makes it so much easier. All right. Front HD audio. Okay, perfect spot under for this to run. All right, so your front panel is gonna go inside to the left side of that. All right, front. We're gonna fold this in like this, zip tie like that. It's hard to give you guys an angle of what's going on, but it's basically the tucking and maneuvering of these cables ahead of time. So this cable right here, there's a little slot like in between the motherboard right here. I'm gonna have to fold up like this. Boom, in there. Fairly clean. You know what? I'm just going to wrap this like this for now. Just temporarily. Oh man, how ugly is that cable, bro? But what I'm going to do is get my power supply out and get all of my power supply cables connected. Okay, so I'm gonna use this for my GPU, the 9070 XT. I'm gonna use this for my motherboard power. And I also can't forget the RGB cable. ARGB cable for our power supply. So we're gonna use this. Boom. So 4 more cables, 5 in total, including the CPU power. Motherboard power. ARGB. SATA power. Our 6 to 8 pin. This is what we'll use for the 9070 XT. Fan facing outward. Oh, that's why I came with an adapter. I already have an adapter that came with it. Okay, so this case comes with its own power supply adapter, which I might have to use. So this is using their power supply adapter. The one that came with this power supply actually works really well because you get 4. So the same screws from your motherboard you're gonna use as your offset screws as well. I mean, if 8 screws for this adapter doesn't give you confidence or peace of mind with your PSU flying, I don't know what will. Now, I'm pretty sure the PSU goes in here this way. Challenge is gonna be getting this to stay aligned as you screw. So you can use a full ATX power supply inside of here. I actually have a 1000-watt one around that's white that I could have used. But I love the Loki cables, the bendability of them. That's the reason why I chose this. A lot of room in between this size PSU versus what this is intended for. And then we're gonna go in here. And we can fit into the F1 spot. I can even go F2. I'm gonna see. I might go first position. All right, this is position 1. And they did give us more of these recessed PSU screws. All right, CPU power in there. It's in there nice and snug though. Everything is routing quite well outside of this ugly. Have that be like the connection for that right there. Boom. How do we want to go at our motherboard power cable? Like as far as like the routing, we can keep it kind of like tucked down. So it looks like all of my cabling is going to be over here kind of like zip tied together for the most part. This would just have to come up like that, maybe. All right, we'll try this for now. Boom. Everything Velcro strap together with a nice white Velcro strap. This is going to be cleaner than my other SFF, like, you know, craziness that I've dealt with. And then this ARGB can go under the bottom tucked and just plug in down here incognito, or as incognito as it can be. So it has to be tucked behind the fans because I have to run these fans in here. All right, boom. Okay, so let me get my bottom triple fans in as well as my rear wireless fan. We got pretty much everything else routed for the most part. Now what I've been waiting for, wireless fans. Let's go, baby. $90 for a triple fan reverse, which is gonna go on the bottom and blow, intake up. And then an exhaust on the rear wireless, $28. So as you guys can see, this is not cheap. We have lost that whole cost conscious concept with these fans, but I'm excited to experience, the latest PC tech. To our fan on the motherboard, if you need power, you have the SATA power, fan screws. Here's what's super cool about this wireless dongle. You have 2 ways to use this. You can use it inside via this connection using a USB on the motherboard as well as a fan control, or skip that. You can just plug in this USB type A dongle on the rear of your motherboard. Wireless connectivity, super fire. And the logo's letting you know which part is facing up. And if you're wondering why these fans look funky, they are reverse fans, meaning they bring air in versus blowing air out. So it's quite simple if you don't understand. Male, female, boom, wireless receiver. So now we have to think about our orientation we want. With this needing to be here, and this hooks in, by the way. Definitely going to be going in this way with the cable that way because our fan connection is right there. I'll show you guys. System fan 1 is right here, as well as system fan 2. So we'll probably plug into the system fan 2 slot with the bottom ones and plug in the rear exhaust one into system fan 1. So let's go ahead and get our rear exhaust fan together. Wireless receiver, screws, fan. Ooh, can this even fit? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's cool. Okay. Oh, man. Oh, I was nervous for a second there. I was like, hold up. Oh, these are cool the way that they hide the... They really thought about a truly clean build for sure. All right, we got that one in place. Let's go ahead and plug that into our system fan 1. Remove our dust cover down there. Now for the bottom fans, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to place them in here. Okay, let me remove the little rubber feet first. You know what? These rubber, these automatically have like anti-vibrational connection points. These fans are actually more well designed than you would perceive at first look. Okay, first thing first, get our fan connector connected. Let's get our slack. All right, I'm gonna turn this so you guys can see what I got going on. So my number one thing I want to do is get this slack from this fan cable zip tied and tucked. All right, let's flip this on this side and get these fans screwed in. All right, now for the moment of truth, the GPU placement. Luckily for me, we're using a small form factor, small PC friendly GPU. All right. Oh, these could have been the screws I could have used for the GPU to have it all black, but it doesn't matter. You don't even see it from the outside or inside or anything like that. So, all right, I'm only going to remove 2. We'll see how that goes. And let's place it. Oh, it's in there solid. So I need something like really small, like fingers width to post right there to just put a little pressure up on the GPU, but it's not sagging terribly. I mean, the GPU sag is natural from when it was in the other case, it was just hanging. So it is what it is, even though it's supposed to be a reinforcement at the connection point back there to combat GPU sag, but you know, with these larger GPUs nowadays, it's almost impossible. But as you guys can see, our build is practically complete. Last but not least, we need to get our power cables for the GPU RAN. They can tuck right here in front of the fans and come up and just connect these together and push in. And then we can take this cable in and tuck it right here. Oh, super clean. Super clean. All right, so I'm gonna get one of those white Asus Velcro straps and wrap it around these cables. And bada bing, bada boom. Okay, so as you guys can see, I'm pretty much on the final stretch of this build. Little zip tying here and there. At the end of the day, cleaned up the cables as much as I could. Yeah, so at this point, I'm ready to reassemble this case, get it booted up so you guys can see the visuals with the lights and everything. Get this bad boy dancing and having fun. Let's go. So we're gonna turn on our power switch, put our magnetic dust filter on the lower area. Boom. Guess we'll add the front. Now there is wood for the front of these if you want that. That's an option. It costs a little bit more. I didn't opt in for that. I could have, but I chose not to. I didn't think the wood with the white would go well, but black and white is just fine. All right, so for first boot, I think we're gonna do the tempered glass. So let me get that unboxed so I can put that in play. Let's not forget our wireless transmitter for our fans. Now, just for a visual, I want to see what the vented siding looks like with the white inner hardware. When the lights come on, it's really going to be a sight to see. But I just want to see if the white guts are visible through the vented. Oh, this is actually mesh. You can see through this. That's perfectly fine. And we'll get visuals plus airflow. Oh, that might be the move. And even more, let's say if you built something that was a hot build, you can use this side fan thing and you can have extra fans bringing in air to cool this if you had temperature issues. I don't anticipate that with this build. It's a fairly well tempered build. That's nice. That's really nice. This is gonna look really good once we boot it up. YouTube, it's time to finally boot up this system. It should just get straight to running. It is a previously assembled system with a few changes, just new fans and whatnot. So let's see if we actually have everything wired correctly. Uh-oh, I think the blinking means there's not enough power for that from the motherboard. For these 3 fans, which means I need to use that connector, which will allow for SATA power to go to this. You know, PC building has its challenges. It has its, you know, things that you always have to work out every now and then, especially with these smaller form factor builds. But that fan issue was something that you wouldn't know until you boot up if your motherboard didn't have enough power to power the fan. So now we have them running to the SATA power. So let's boot up. She look good. YouTube, we got power, baby. We have power. We have lights, we have cameras, and we have action. Let's get to it. This is a nice case. This is a nice build. You know, black and white Panda. Everything in there, black and white. Nothing of any other color. Now those RAM sticks will immediately be switched to the proper color. Me personally on RGB, I typically just turn them to all white and light up the case, or like, you know, just give visual lighting to the interior. So it's more than likely what we will do. Boom. We have power. We have an all white interior and a black exterior for that Panda build, baby. Nice. So everything is up and running as it should. The main thing I just want to check on here is temperatures, which should most definitely be improved as we have more fans. So even if you want to opt in for the tempered glass on this case, and like a similar setup where I have 3 intake fans at the bottom, 1 exhaust on the rear, 2 exhaust via radiator, for a grand total of 6 fans, it just equals a pretty ideal cooling situation right here for the 9800X3D. Currently, our max temperature on the CPU is 71 degrees Celsius, which is phenomenal. This is full native 1440p, no FSR, anything. And we're gonna see how it runs. Okay, so 1440p extreme settings, and we have an average FPS of 152, lows of 106. Okay, so in this benchmark, we will have it set to balance. Okay, so on the balance preset, we get an average FPS of 216 with lows of 158. Okay, so the infamous Blackmyth Wukong benchmark tool, we are at 100% super resolution, no frame gen, cinematic preset, as you guys can see. All right, so an average FPS of 52, maximum 60, minimum 46. All cinematic, all full res. Okay, so we are on ultra settings, but I've disabled the resolution and frame generation. As you guys can see, this is custom texture quality to high, 1440p resolution, and no frame gen, no resolution scaling or anything of that sort, with an average FPS of 130, our minimums 108, max 164. Okay, so we have FSR3 quality, we have frame gen on, and we have ray tracing, so we are cranking. The game looks good with all this cranked right here like this. Looks really solid. 86 FPS is decent. So this is the first time we see frame generation saying yes. Okay, so we're actually getting it. Now, what I want to try, since now we have frame generation actually working, is if I turned off ray tracing, right? If you were trying to crank performance out of this game and throw up a ton of FPS, this is how you would do it. Okay, an average FPS of 272 frames per second with frame gen FSR3. Wow. And that's all settings on like high and ultra too.